Garland, most notable for films like Ex Machina and Men, attempts to create a politically driven speculation scenario of the United States in a modern day civil war. I say attempted because given the recent political climate, it gives merit that the idea of a civil war is possible. However, the film plays this scenario in the safest way it possibly can. There's no real attempt in any sort of statement or discussion to be had regarding the political climate it's trying to emulate. This may be because it's trying to avoid any sort of controversy from either the left or the right in order to be more accessible to a wider audience. But in doing so, it really ends up having nothing to say about any political tension whatsoever. The film stars Kirsten Dunst as a cold and jaded war photographer who's seen every horrible thing you can think of from humanity, along with Wagner Moura and Kaylee Sweeney and Stephen McKinley Henderson on what seems to be the most dangerous road trip across America during a civil war, to get a chance to take a photo and to have an interview with the president, played by Nick Offerman. This premise has a lot of promise, and yet I feel like I didn't get much out of it. The film is more focused on the effects of war journalism and what it does to a person after a long period of time, rather than being a movie about the Civil War that the movie promises you. And because it's focused on its journalists, they try to make the characters very apolitical, very neutral, because they're only there to observe and report what's happening. But they feel like they're not allowed to take any stance or have any opinion about anything. So we really don't get many reasons as to why any of this is happening and why any of these characters are really doing any of this, aside from having the scoop. They imply pretty early on that the president has been given a third term in office, has disbanded the FBI, and has set drone strikes on American citizens. Okay. But we never get much of the how and the why, or even how the characters feel about these situations. Which is strange considering it's the perfect time and place to have characters that may have varied views or nuanced takes on those very subjects. Aside from this, and a brief glimpse of the map of the U.S. During this war, there isn't much world building for most of the factions mentioned. For instance, Florida has its own growing faction in the war, but it's only brought up in a throwaway line by the president. We never get to see what it looks like, or how they affect the war, or even how the characters from Florida feel about it. As a Floridian, I would have wanted to see what that looks like, but nothing else comes of it. Once we get to seeing what this war looks like along this trip, it starts getting annoying that the characters hardly have to solve any problems or use their wits to get out of any situation that they're in. Except for maybe one scene with Jesse Plemons, which, by the way, this is not in the script, but I found out fairly recently after watching the film that Jesse Plemons is married to Kirsten Dunst, so that must have been a pretty interesting, thing behind the scenes between the two in that scene. Anyways, that scene with Jesse Plemons was honestly the best part of the movie. Not only because it made the characters work toward survival by trying to de-escalate the situation, but it also tackled part of the subject matter regarding American people during such a high-strung political time. An encounter with someone who is clearly over-radicalized by their patriotism, to the point of zealotry. Something many Americans who meet or know people like that can agree is very stressful to even talk about, but to an extreme. Immediately after that, it feels like the last act of the film becomes a bit too rushed. It's getting to the president to wrap things up. There's decent moments in it where you see the breaking points of the characters, like Wagner Moura and Kirsten Dunst. Uh, Other than that, I wasn't all too satisfied with how it ended, especially when Kaylee Spani's character, named Jesse, causes the death of half of the fucking cast for quite simply just being a fuck up, honestly. Just in the dumbest ways possible. There's literally a scene near the end of the movie where, you see Kirsten Dunst, dodging gunfire by zooming past one side of the hallway to the other in order to get a certain shot while moving. Kaylee Spani's character does the same thing, but she stays right in the middle of the fucking hallway just for Kirsten Dunst to hop in and save her and then get shot in the crossfire. Like fucking hell, dude. If I were to give any positives for the film, it's that it has a pretty decent sound design. There's a scene that stands out where Jesse, Kaylee Spani's character, is watching the war from afar before sleeping. You hear the gunfire as muffled and very far away, and then it hard cuts into the battle the next day, where the gunfire is loud and abrasive, and it jolts you up after the hypnotic lull of the previous shot. To wrap this up, all I gotta say is that the film has so much potential to be a really good talking point for people after watching it. It could have had something to say regarding both parties and how they currently deal with the increasing tension and what contributes to that tension in general. An example I can give is a film called The Hunt. It came out during 2020, and the movie had a whole marketing scheme of being so controversial that they didn't let it out in theaters at first, right? But that's because it mainly exposes both political parties. It satirizes both political parties and their absurdities, and exposes the things about them that's a detriment to their causes, while also, and more importantly, giving great and entertaining action and problems for the characters to solve, etc. Civil War was playing it safe in its commentary, only to its detriment. If it had something to say, it would have given flesh to the bare bones that this movie was given. I know I didn't rate the last movie I reviewed, it was Monkey Man. I would have probably have given that movie a 7 out of 10, or something like that. 3 out of stars, or 3 out of 5 stars. This movie, I'd probably give it a 4, maybe a 5, but it's closer to a 4. 4 out of 10. 4.5, I'll say, out of 10. And that's really all I had to say, because quite frankly, this film didn't have much to say in general. So that's it. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe, comment, and please make sure to hit that bell notification button so that you get more notifications of any videos I make in the future. So yeah, have a wonderful day.